So let me this. The Galatians study that we did, um, it's kind of a lot. It was 103 slides on PowerPoint. Um, Again, we'll be going through all of the letters of Paul, um, in a pretty well backed chronological order, which goes a little contrary to the order you'll find in your Bibles, um, but not that big of a deal. Unless you read them chronologically, then I think it is a big deal. You start to understand uh, when Paul's referencing certain things later on in his later letters, he references things, and knowing that, hey, he wrote this to the Thessalonians or he spoke to the Galatians about this. Um, it helps give context to what Paul is truly saying. And so here as we begin First Thessalonians, right? I have a question. Would Paul's letter apply to you? So as you read through these letters, I want you to insert yourself, right? Because remember, the disciples and the apostles, they only taught what they understood from the Messiah. And for anybody that's going to say, well, Paul was against the Messiah, he didn't follow around the Messiah like John, he didn't follow around like Peter. That's true. But John tells us that we need no teacher, for the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, is our teacher. So Paul is the perfect example of one who's being taught and led by the Spirit. Remember, I guarantee you, Paul saw Messiah in real life. I, without a doubt in my mind, know he saw him in the flesh. He had to have. The circle that they went around and the people that he mingled with and the people that discussed and had conversations, condemned, argued with, tried to stone the Messiah, I guarantee you Paul saw the Messiah many times in the flesh. But he didn't follow him and he didn't walk with him as the Messiah while he was upon the earth. It wasn't until the road to Damascus does Paul have his revealing of the true Mashiach, the Messiah. In that moment, we see the Spirit leading Paul. So Paul is an amazing example for us today, right? Yes, he was raised in the Torah. Yes, he didn't have video games and TV and influences in music and all these things. And it was a much simpler, physically harder life, but much simpler life back then where you could really focus and meditate on his word without the distraction of the world. um, but he is a great example of someone being led by the Spirit. So when we read the letters of Paul, we really got to think, okay, Paul talks a lot about being led by the Spirit, but what does being led by the Spirit look like? So we can look to Paul as an example, not only how he conducted himself, but how he spoke with others, how he interacted with others, how he handled situations. And he's going to get into some of this in the Thessalonians. Um, and later, which some of my favorite letters, Timothy. Um, so just think about this, right? When Paul wrote this letter to the Thessalonians, could you insert yourself in that group of people where these letters are being read to and say, wow, that applies to me, right? And my next question is, okay, it applies to me. Would you listen? Would you heed the warning, right? Moses stood on Mount Sinai, performed sacrifices, sprinkled the blood upon the people, and spoke into their ears all of the words of the Torah. He said, these things are not too far from me. They are not across the ocean saying, who will go and get them? They are not up in heaven saying, who will go up and bring them down unto us and teach them? They are very near, for they are in your heart, they are on your hand, they are in your mind, they are in your actions, they are in your ears, they are in your eyes, they are in your thoughts. It is a part of you, right? When you leave the house, you might forget your keys, but you'll never forget your hand. unless you didn't have one, you had a fake hand. That'd be the only way you could do that. Other than that, that's how these commands should be. They should be at another limb, right? That is hanging off your body, that regardless of what you're wearing or where you're going or what time you woke up, it's something that will always leave the house with you. And that's what we start to understand, that maybe this spiritual connection that Paul speaks of so heavily that he was led by wasn't this like ghostly, ghouly, white, feathery, kind of wispy thing that flies around and saves people from car wrecks and pulls people out of. Maybe that's not what this spirit really interacts, right, with us. Maybe it's a day to day, second to second, minute to minute kind of thing that is constantly guiding us throughout the day, right? Isn't it kind of funny that the word ruach could mean breath, wind, spirit, right? So when we're sitting here breathing in, right, maybe the ruach, the spirit, is more like air, where it's a constant substance that we need in order to maintain some level of spiritual health, right? We can only hold our breath for so long before we gasp for it, right? We can only separate ourselves from the spirit so long before we gasp for it. And eventually, if we hold our breath long enough, we'll pass out. Well, there is always the chance of you don't wake back up. We don't want to be there. So, right, we ask these questions, and we're going to continue to ask these questions through all of Paul's letters. You have to ask yourself these questions, right? Is Paul preaching another gospel? Remember, in the beginning of Galatians, he said, if one comes to you speaking of another Messiah, speaking of another good news gospel, even if it's me, refuse to hear them. Right? So Paul even warns about himself. If I go off the rails and I start speaking contrary to everything you've been told and you've been raised in, which, by the way, guys, is the scriptures. Remember that. It is the scriptures. It's the Old Testament. It's everything, which I believe includes Enoch and Jasher and Sirach and Tobit and all these other books, right, that were removed, and many more, right? We see, did he not know this in the prophet Edo, right? Did the prophet Edo not write about this? Well, I would love to find the book of the prophet Edo, but I don't have it. But it was referenced. Didn't Edo write about this? So there's a book right there that we know for a fact is quoted, is referenced, and is found nowhere. So all of these books up to basically Malachi, right? What's the last prophet that we know of? There could have been a writing after Malachi. But what we know, these would have been the scriptures that Paul is referencing, saying, stay true to what you've been taught since a young age. Like later when we get into Timothy, he says, from your infancy, right? So is he preaching another good news? Is he preaching another gospel? Is he teaching about a different God, about a different Elohim? Right? Is he preaching against obedience? This is a very, very important thing. This is a question we did not ask last time, but I want you to kind of think in your mind like, okay, is he telling us that we should be obedient unto the Father and the Messiah and the Spirit, or should we not be obedient to them? And last but not least, is Paul an apostle or is he a false teacher? Right? Remember, disciples were the ones who walked with Yeshua and chosen. Those are the 12, 13 if you will. Right? Those were the men who walked with him. And then people after that that have been chosen or appointed as messengers or get the title apostle. So Paul gets the title apostle because he is not a disciple, but he's after and he's chosen. And we can confirm and we know who called unto Paul and who charged him with his little side quest that was the rest of his life. All right. And we will begin. So I forgot to do it on Galatians, but it's a good little bit of work you can do this week. I want you to go back and every one of Paul's letters, I want you to break it apart. I want you to break apart the beginning, right? Paul's uh, uh, subject line, right? If I'm writing a letter, to whom may concern, right? What I want you to look at is who's Paul writing to, right? And something else I want you to think about this. Look who this letter specifically, the Thessalonians, is from. It's not it's not a letter of Paul. It's Paul, Silas, and Timothy. It says Paul and Silas and Timothy to the assembly of the Thessalonians. So it's those three men in agreement, in conjuncture. They're saying to the assembly of the Thessalonians in Elohim the Father and the Master Yeshua Messiah. There's a clear distinction, two beings. Remember this. Paul does not back the idea of a unity trinity, a one Godhead. That's not, none of Paul's writings reflect a unity of one being, okay? There are three separate beings in this, right? Just like when John immerses Yeshua, it says, a voice from the heavens calls out, "This is my son with whom I am well pleased," as the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, is descending in the likeness of a white dove that enters into Yeshua, who is in the Jordan being immersed by Johanna. So, three beings, three separate locations, one identical time in time and space. So, I read a letter to the Thessalonians in Elohim the Father and the Master, Yeshua Messiah. Favor to you and peace from Elohim our Father and the Master, Yeshua Messiah. Pay attention when people are writing. If I'm saying my father, then you are not a brother or a sister. If I say our father, I'm considering you a brother or a sister. So watch how Paul uses these words when he's referencing people and groups and decisions and actions. All right. So a letter from the Father up top and the Master on the right, the line of Judah. All right. We give thanks to Elohim. So what I've done is anytime it's talking about the Father, I've highlighted it in blue. And when it's talking about Yeshua, I've highlighted it in red. So you'll see that. And we'll see a distinction of how much. Remember, is Paul talking about, is he preaching another gospel? Or is he representing a different God, a different Elohim? All right, we give thanks to Elohim always for you all, making mention of you in our prayers, and remembering without ceasing your work of the belief. Remembering without ceasing your work of the belief, and the labor of love, the endurance of the expectation in our Master, Yeshua Messiah. Here again, right? We've seen Paul say the Master, but now he's referenced our Father and our Master. In the presence of our Elohim and Father, knowing, brothers, beloved by Elohim, that you were chosen. Now, I want you to think about just pause right there at the end of 4. I want you to think about the consequences, okay, of his actions. Imagine, imagine, right? Every year for Passover, we watch Passion of the Christ. And I think, my opinion, it's a fantastic movie and everybody should because it really, really puts into perspective. Yes, there's a couple minute errors, and that's fine. But that puts into perspective just what our master went through in order to give us life. Kind of crazy. But when you're, if you've seen it and if you can recall and if you can imagine, right? When Yeshua looks at them and says, right? They said, "Who do you say you are?" Caiaphas looks at him. He says, right, all the witnesses that they have against Yeshua are garbage, right? They don't make any sense. They're not a good witness. There's not multiple people saying yes or no, right? All that there is silly wives' tales, right? And when Caiaphas says, "Hey, who do you say that you are?" Right? Are you the son? Are you the Messiah, the son of Elohim? And Yeshua says, "I am." The anger and aggression that they have, I think a lot of it's rooted because they're supposedly his chosen people. But then here comes the Son of the Most High saying, "Yeah, you threw that away, guys. You were the chosen people, and you've chosen another," right? Imagine when Paul looks at these same men. Paul and Caiaphas lived at the same time. And remember, Caiaphas instructed, he gave Paul the orders. He said, "I'm under the orders of Caiaphas, the high priest, to go out to Damascus to look for these believers in Yeshua." And now here we are years later, and Paul is writing a letter to a group of believers saying, "You, not Jews, you Gentiles, that you were chosen." Imagine the frustration and the hatred that Paul would have received by saying these words. This is a serious thing because the Jews believed and still do that they are always and will always be his people. And to some extent, they will. They are. But if they choose not to be a part of his house, then they choose not to be a part of his house, and therefore they're not chosen anymore. And this is something we really have to think about. When Paul's writing his letters, right? I don't know if I said it, but I don't know if I said it on here. If I walk into a room and I know everybody in the room, the guard stops me at the door and they call one by one the 50 people in the room, and all of them look at me and say, "I don't know that man. I don't get in." It doesn't matter that I know every single person in that room. It doesn't matter. Nobody knows me in the room. It's not knowing Yeshua, knowing the Father is very important. But what we need to be paying attention to is, do they know us? Right? We might have chosen them through lies and deceit and falsehoods. We've chosen a different version of them, right? But more importantly, we were chosen. That's the important thing. And Paul is telling them, "You guys are beloved by the Father and you were chosen." Verse 5, "Because our good news did not come to you in word only, but also in power and in the set apart spirit and in the entire confirmation, as you know what kind of men we were among you for your sake." Paul's saying, dude, it wasn't just, "I believe." We saw the Ruach HaKodesh descend upon you. We saw power. We saw abilities. We saw things that can only be explained by the set apart spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, right? We know that the gospel, the good news, is in you. We know that the set apart spirit is in you. We know that the Father has chosen you because we've seen these things with our eyes. not just heard them in the mouth, right? There's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I accept the blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, I accept the blood of my Messiah, my Savior." Well, in the Passover, we are commanded, right? They were commanded, do not leave the house in which you eat the Passover. So, what happened to all those people who went over to their neighbor's house, ate some lamb, and then sat around for an hour or two and was like, nothing happened? 3 hours later, what is going on? I'm going home. You guys are over here in your shoes. You got your staff in your hand. You guys are like ready to go on a journey. Everything's packed up. And what is going on? Right? Is that in the Bible? No, but we also see in John 6, it says that when Yeshua says, your fathers thought they ate the manna from the heavens, and I'm telling you they did not. I am the man. I am the bread of life. You eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you will gain everlasting life. And in the end of John 6, it says that those who were with him, those were taught, his taught ones, they were walking with him. They look at each other and say, these words are too hard to hear. Who is able to hear and understand them? And they chose to walk away. Right there. They're literally watching the Messiah in the flesh heal, fix, raise from the dead. The miracles we see in the Gospels is a literal drop in the ocean of what Yeshua did while he walked on the earth. So imagine what those men saw. But yet they heard something that they didn't understand. And instead of saying, Father, give me wisdom to understand what this means. Master, can you teach us what you mean by when you say you are the bread and we are to eat your flesh? Can you explain to us what you mean, Master? I mean, we see the disciples talk about this later, right? When he says, beware the leaven of the Pharisees. And they're like, oh man, dude, we can't eat bread from those guys? And he's like, what are you guys talking about? I'm talking about their teachings. So, no, it's not in the Bible, but it's reasonable to assume there could have been people that started the Passover and did not endure, right? Paul says it right there in verse 3. The endurance of the expectation in our Master Yeshua Messiah. The endurance of the expectation in our Master. I have an expectation Yeshua the Messiah will raise me in the last day. And if I can hold out long enough, if I can endure the trials and temptations and tests of this world, and my trust truly is in the Master, then I know, and my expectation is that one day he will raise me in the last day. That's the expectation of the Master, is to stay with his word that he tells us also in John when he says, right? What is the will of my Father? That all of those who look upon the Son and trust and believe in the Son, he will by no means cast out, but will raise him to everlasting life in the end. That is our expectation of the Master. These people were Gentiles, not Jews, yet they were chosen. These people, just like us, probably never even saw the Messiah in the physical. They never saw him. They heard of him. We've heard of him. They read of him. We read of him. They believe in him. We believe in him. They trust in him. We trust in him. These people that Paul's writing to are no different from me and you today. They didn't walk around and see these miracles. They just listened to the word. But Paul says also in power and the set apart spirit in your entire confirmation. So me and you sitting here today, we can't just, there are things that have happened in our lives individually that maybe everybody knows about, maybe only we know about, that has happened in our life that we cannot look there and say, wow, what a crazy coincidence. Nope. That is the power of the set apart spirit working in your life because you've chosen him. And in return, he's chosen you. So Paul says, as you know what kind of men we were among you for your sake, we showed you an example of what it is to have the set apart spirit, to have the power, to have the word, the good news, the gospel, to be chosen by the Father, to have a trust and expectation, and to endure and wait with the labor of love and the patience of the promise of our Master Yeshua Messiah. And you see this through our works, and our works are through our belief. James is not a letter of Paul, so we won't cover it in this. But here in about, I think, 4 letters, we are going to jump into James pretty heavily because this is a man that studied with Paul. We want to know about Paul. And we got to know the group of people he hung out with. So, verse 6. And you became imitators of us and of the master. So there we go. We talk about this word witness. I want to be a witness, right? Me and Zuki were talking and she found a shirt that said, me, God, please use me in whatever way you need me to. Also me. Man, when he uses me, I'm super nervous that he used me, right? Panicking that he used me, right? But that's witnessing. He's using you to accomplish a task. Remember, Jonah goes to Nineveh. I would love for you to go reread that and see where an angel army stands at the gates, putting fear into the hearts of men of Nineveh so they will repent of their work. No, there was a man who came on a whale or the fish, out of the mouth of a fish, got spit up onto the beach, probably smelled terrible. I'm pretty sure he didn't have a change of clothes with him. Maybe he bought something. Maybe he washed up. I don't know. It doesn't say that. But I can tell you that a strange man walked into a city and the king commanded that they all bow and repent and put on sackcloth and seek forgiveness from this. That is a witness. That's a witness. And Jonah is being used as a witness of the Most High and of his power and authority. Paul is being used as a witness. Silas, Timothy, they're being used. John, James, Peter, Matthew, Timothy, they're all being used as a witness of how the master is, what the master is, what the Father is, who the Father is. And he says, you have become an imitator, not just of us, but of the master, the Messiah. Having received the word in much pressure and with joy of the set apart spirit, so that you became an example to all who believe in Macedonia and Achaia. So they weren't just, wow, good, I'm glad. No, you go out and be a witness to others. Go out and work for others. Go out so that others can see you. There's a lot of people in this life that question and they see believers, they see things happening. How? I don't know. It's the Father. This is just a blessing that He's given unto me. That's a witness. 8. For from you the word of the Master has sounded forth, not only in Macedonia and Achaia, but in also every place your belief toward Elohim has gone out. So you speaking on the word of the Master, the good news, the gospel, and that has gone forth in accordance with the belief towards the Father. Remember that. It's a package deal, right? Jews have the Father and no Son. Most Christian-based churches have the Son and no Father. I'm going to hand you a bottle of soap and say, hey, go wash the car. And I'm going to hand that guy a bucket of water and say, hey, go wash the car. Well, they both will be kind of clean, I guess. One will be disinfected and one will be rinsed off. But I need both, right? And yeah, you can wash with the soapy water, but if I give you the helper, right? If I give you a sponge, or some kind of chamois, well, then now the car is going to be very clean, right? And when the owner comes back to receive his vehicle, he's not going to look at you like you're a crazy person. Because that guy out there with the chamois with no water, he's just running a dry rag all over it. I'm like, yeah, you got one of the tools, but you're missing the others. And now you're just kind of making a mess of everything, honestly. Right? So the belief toward the Elohim has gone out, so that it is unnecessary for us to say whatever. There's no reason for Paul and Silas and Timothy to even speak on this. They've seen it, right? We know it. We don't even need to discuss it. We know it's there. For they themselves, 9, for they themselves report what kind of reception we had with you and how you turned to Elohim from idols to serve the living and true Elohim. Is Paul preaching a different God? Because I'm pretty sure right here we can clearly see Paul's saying, we didn't even need to ask about this or talk about this because we've already heard that you guys have turned from your idol worship. You've turned to the Father and you are serving the true living Elohim. And, right, to serve the living and to wait for his Son from the heavens. That's the expectation in our Master Yeshua. To wait on the return of his Son, whom he raised from the dead, Yeshua, who is delivering us from the wrath to come. Now, remember, we talk a lot about end time stuff, and people always want to know about Revelation, this, Revelation, that. Go check out Paul's letters to Thessalonians because he's gonna cover this. Yeshua is delivering us from the wrath to come. What wrath? The wrath of the devil? No. The wrath of man? No. You can write next to this if you want to. The great and terrible day of Yahweh. Right? The great and terrible day of Yahweh. If you're confused about what that is, go to the prophets. Go to the prophets. Jump on Google and type in the great and terrible day of the Lord. And I'm sure 80, 90 verses will pop up. You'll see them. Go read them. So our expectation is that the Master saves us and that the Master is the Son of our Father, the true living Elohim, and that we all worship. We turn from our evil ways to good things to him. Chapter 2. For you yourselves know, brothers, that our coming to you was not in vain. Kelly and Steve came over for unleavened bread. They were talking about how when they went out to go eat, that they walked out a little bit early to prepare to leave after Sabbath to go out. There are some people walking down the road, and conveniently they are believers, and conveniently they keep the Sabbath, and conveniently are probably, I'm assuming, interested in the feasts and other things. But they're going to some Seventh-day Adventist church. And do you say that this was a vain meeting? Wow, it was just by chance. Or just like Paul's saying, guys, my coming here, it's not useless. It's not useless that I walked over here and I have this conversation, or I'm sitting down and I'm writing these letters to you. It's not a useless thing, right? This is another tool the Father's using. So our interactions with other people, we shouldn't look at them as like, man, we met these people and they were awesome and we thought they were going to come study and be with us and do all these things, but now they're not. They're going and doing the other thing. That's fine. It's not like that conversation was useless. We don't know what seeds we're planting, right? But we know we are planting. 2, but having suffered before and having been mistreated at Philippi, as you know, we were bold in our Elohim to speak the good news of Elohim in much struggle. For the appeal we make does not come from delusion, nor uncleanliness, nor from deceit. You heard about all the crazy stuff that happened and how we were mistreated in Philippi. That was not because we were teaching something wrong. That was not because we were doing something bad, right? It didn't come from delusion, uncleanliness, or deceit. But as we have been approved by the Father, our Elohim, to be entrusted with the gospel, the good news, so we speak, not as pleasing men, but Elohim who proves our hearts. So Paul's saying, guys, we were not preaching some crazy nonsense at Philippi when we were assaulted and beat up and basically imprisoned. He's saying, hey, we were not speaking to please men. And I didn't put this in here, and I should have, but you can Google this. You can find this. Peter in the book of Acts, when they're saying, they bring him in, and they're like, didn't we tell you not to teach in this man's name? And he says, who am I supposed to please, men or the Father? Because I don't know about you, but I'm pleasing the Father. And if you disagree with that, then you take that up with him. That's not my problem. I'm not here to tickle your ears. I'm here to speak the truth. And if you don't like the truth or the truth doesn't work with you, that's not my problem. That's your problem. And that's something that I think at the end of the day, right, we really need to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, hey, who are we trying to please in this, right? When we're at a disagreement with a loved one or a family member or a very close friend that we consider like a family member, and we feel ourselves slipping into like, well, I don't know if he really wants me to do that. Well, in that moment, we really got to ask ourselves, are we pleasing that person or are we pleasing him? If we just please him, we focus on him, a lot of our carries and our worries and the things that stress us out in this world, they kind of go away. The moment we flip-flop that and we start making other people the priority and other things the priority, it starts to change things. Yes, my children and my wife are my priority over a lot of stuff. But when it comes to him, if I just focus on him, then everything else will fall into line. Because he is the one who proves our hearts. So what are we talking about this, right? So I want you to you don't have to, but Second Timothy, right? And Paul's second letter to Timothy in chapter 2, he says, remind them of this, earnestly witnessing before the master, not to wage verbal battles, which is useless. Remember, vain, useless. It's the same word. Do not get into arguments. It's useless. It's vain, right? To the overthrowing of the hearers. Do your utmost to present yourself approved to Elohim, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. So when Timothy's off on his own and Paul writes a letter to him, Paul's telling him, present yourself approved to the Father, not to men. Because someone who is a worker who is doing the right thing, you're not ashamed. I did the right thing. It's not my fault that the production line stopped. When a red thing comes down, I hit this button. I hit the button and stopped the factory. I did the right thing. Yeah, you're mad because you lost money and time and this and that. But the rules say when a red thing comes down the line, I hit the red button and the whole thing shuts down. And now we got to have a safety guy talk and blah, 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 blah. And you lost 2 days of production. But I did the right thing. I'm not ashamed of what I did. I followed. Yeah, it threw a wrench in things and made things crazy. But I'm also rightly handling the word of truth, right? This is something that we should all be looking to strive for, right? We're a worker of the Most High. And when he comes out and he says, hey guys, this is how you harvest my fields. Well, if I harvest your fields how you told me to, and you take a peek down and you're like, there's a bunch of stuff left. What's going on? We didn't even do the corners. Yeah, because I'm supposed to leave the corners for the widow, the homeless, the orphan, and I'm not supposed to harvest the stuff that falls on the ground. So I didn't pick up those grapes. Even though they fell as I was walking down the line, I didn't harvest them because I rightly divided the word of truth. I was a worker who obeyed and presented myself approved by the Father, not approved. Oh, I got the most grapes out of all of you. That's cool, but you also didn't listen to the rules. Oh, I went as fast as I could and I was the first one done. That's cool, but you missed a lot that should have been harvested, right? Oh, I just took my time and I did what I was told. And I did it with care and diligence. Oh, okay. So the worker who should not be ashamed of how they did it because they rightly handled the truth. So now going back, right? He says, Paul says two things. He says, be approved by Elohim, right? We don't care if we please men, great. If we don't please men, great. As long as we're approved by the Father. Because he is the one who proves our hearts. He tells Timothy, show yourself approved by the Father and handle the word rightly. Jeremiah chapter 17, he says, verse 9, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? I, Yahweh, search the heart. I examine the mind to reward a man according to his way, by what his deeds deserve. Like a partridge hatching eggs, it did not lay, is the man who makes a fortune unjustly. In the middle of his days, his riches will desert him, and in the end, he will be the fool. Jeremiah is saying the heart's deceitful and it's uncurable. It's beyond cure. It cannot be fixed. Who can understand it? The Father says, well, me. I search the heart, I examine it, and I reward the man and the mind accordingly. But those who take it and snatch, like the partridge hatching eggs that did not lay, is just like the man who gets a fortune unjustly. All these rich people, these famous people, look at their lives. They are empty and they are dead inside. Go look at Robin Williams. Read about Robin Williams. That dude makes all these funny movies, and you're like, wow, that's such a good. He's always laughing. And then you read, and it's like that dude was like the most depressed dude to ever live. He was dying inside with a smile on his face. Because in the middle of his days, his riches deserted him. And in the end, he is the fool. I don't want that. I want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. I don't want to hear, good job, fool. First Samuel chapter 16. You probably know this, but this is good. It says, we're going to read all of 16, by the way. Now, Yahweh said to Samuel, how long are you going to mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem, for I have selected from his sons a king for myself. How can I go? Samuel asks. Saul will hear of it and kill me. Yahweh answered, take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to Yahweh. Think about this. Samuel knows Saul will kill him if he leaves to go anoint another king. He has already told Samuel's already told Saul that the kingdom will be ripped from him and given to another. So if Samuel's running around to go anoint somebody, Saul knows that's the new king. He just kills Samuel and Samuel can't anoint the king. That's a man problem, man solution. Not going to work because the Father would just select another and anoint him. It would get done. But Samuel doesn't say, I cannot go, for I will surely die. He doesn't resist and fight. He says, how can I go? If Saul hears of this, he's going to kill me. And there you go. Look, just like it says in Yeshua, they were about to stone him, and then he just moves through the crowd, and then they don't. It's like, what? They didn't, they obviously saw him, and they picked up stones to kill him, but then somehow they like became blind to him, or his presence was made unknown. I don't know. It just says then he moves through the crowd. He goes into the midst of the crowd, moves through the crowd, and they can't find him. So Samuel, the father tells Samuel, take a heifer and say, I have to come to sacrifice unto Yahweh. Then invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what you are to do. Hmm. So now he's like, okay, cool. I told you you're going to go anoint a king to me. You say, how do I go? I'm telling you, step one. When you get there, I'll let you know step two. Well, he gives him step two, invite Jesse. Step three, I'll let you know when you get there. Take a sacrifice, then go invite Jesse into the sacrifice. And once you're there, I'll tell you what to do. You are to anoint for me the one that I choose, the one I indicate, the one I pick. So Samuel did what Yahweh said and went into Bethlehem. When the elders of the town met him, they trembled and asked, do you come in peace? Now, why would they tremble? Right? This is just a cool. Why would they tremble? Imagine what has occurred, okay? You have Saul being anointed as king. You have many battles, many things being done, many wonders being seen. You have Saul, who keeps the king of the Amalekites and does not kill everybody, but he has them chained up. And what does Samuel do? Samuel, in front of everybody, in front of all the elders, he looks Saul in the face and tells him, you have done evil before the Father. Your kingdom will be stripped from you and given to another. I will do what you have failed to do because you have failed to listen to the Father and you have chosen to bend your ear to the people. He takes Saul's sword and cuts off the king of the Amalekites' head right there in front of everybody. And I'm sure there was a lot of tension in the room. And I do believe to some extent the presence that these prophets held when they walked into a room was felt, right? The presence of an authority, an anointed authority, I feel and I do believe there was some kind of like spiritual pressure. So it's not like, oh, I didn't even know Samuel's here. I didn't even know that. It's like, something is different. Samuel's here. It's the same with Yeshua, right? When Yeshua's sitting there and he walks by people and he talks to people, and the people come out and they're like, this is him. Andrew knew immediately, this is the Mashiach. This is the Messiah we're waiting for. So Samuel goes into the town and these people are trembling. They're scared of Samuel because they know. Think about this. They've seen what prophets of the Most High are capable of, right? Go read about Elijah. Elijah sits on a mountain and says, if I am a man of Yahweh, fire come down from the heavens and eat these men up. And fire comes down and licks up 50 men. And another battalion of men, another 50 men come. And he says, right? They demand, get down here, right? And he says, if I am a man of Yahweh, have fire come down and lick up these men from the earth. And it does, right? So they're trembling. Do you come in peace? Imagine that. Imagine how sad of a state the people are when his people have to ask his prophet, are you coming in peace? Think of it when like a child does something wrong or like an animal does something wrong and you come home and they know they did wrong. Are they like, hey, what's up? How was your day? No, they like cower. They're like, oh, dude, did you see it yet? Do you know? Am I in trouble? How much trouble am I in? That's how these people sound. Do you come in peace? They should be rejoicing that the prophet has come, that Samuel has come to their town to perform sacrifices with them. They should be joyous. This should be a gladys occasion that the prophet is in. But instead, it's not. It's feared. They're trembling. And it's questioned. Do you come in peace? 5. In peace, he replied. I have come to sacrifice to Yahweh. Consecrate yourselves and come with me into the sacrifice. Isn't that sad that the people, that his chosen people had to ask his chosen prophet if his chosen prophet was coming to his chosen people in peace? Then he consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. When they arrived, Samuel, remember this, and this is Samuel, and Samuel's a little different too. Samuel's a little special of a prophet. All the prophets have a quirk on them. Samuel gets risen from the dead in spiritual form by Saul. Remember? So Samuel's a little different, right? Just like Elijah's a little different, just like Jeremiah's a little different. Jeremiah gets to see and hide the Ark of the Covenant and the things of the temple. Elijah gets taken bodily to heaven. Ezekiel gets to see the two sticks prophecy. He gets to speak with Yeshua. Ezra is shown a lot of things. All the prophets have really something cool about them that differ. But think of the wisdom of Samuel. Remember, Samuel, his mother says what? Father, if you give me a child, I will dedicate his entire life to you. Boom, baby comes out. She weans Samuel and says when Samuel's weaned, she takes him to Heli, the high priest, and says, here, my son is the father's. He is no longer my son. He is the father's. Just as I promised, if you gave me a son, I will give him unto you. I'm fulfilling my end of this little covenant we've made. So Samuel, from a young age, is raised in this, right? Samuel's a little different. Samuel sees Eliab, verse 6, and says, surely here before Yahweh is his anointed. So he just sees Eliab, who I'm assuming is just a beast of a man, right? He's a main warrior in Saul's army, seen many of battles, probably just a brute of a man, right? Probably eating a lot of meat, getting a lot of protein, wearing a lot of heavy armor, carrying and swinging and training, probably has a pretty decent muscle mass on him. And Samuel sees him and says, surely here is Yahweh's anointed. Verse 7, but Yahweh says to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or height, for I have rejected him. Yahweh does not see as a man does, for man sees the outward, but Yahweh sees the heart. Oh, so when Paul, right, I'm going to go back a second. When Paul says, the Elohim who proves our heart, is he teaching about a different God? Is he teaching about a different gospel? Is he teaching about a different Elohim? No. Verse 8, and then Jesse calls Abinadab and presents himself to Samuel and says, Yahweh has not chosen this one either. And next, Jesse presents Shema. But Samuel says, Yahweh has not chosen this one either. Thus Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. But Samuel told him, Yahweh has not chosen any of these. And Samuel asked him, are these all of the sons that you have? There is still the youngest, Jesse replies. But he's tending the sheep. Send for him, Samuel replies, for we will not sit down to eat until he arrives. Now, they didn't have a cell phone. They couldn't call him like, hey, David, get back here. Right? They couldn't text him. They couldn't chirp him. Couldn't page him. So who knows how long it was. Right? So then here they are supposed to have this feast. And I just got to wait. So Jesse sends 12 for his youngest son and brings him in. He was ruddy and beautiful with a handsome appearance. And Yahweh says, rise and anoint him, for he is the one. Samuel doesn't question. Samuel doesn't fight back. Samuel doesn't say, this one? No. It says Samuel takes the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brother. And the Spirit of Yahweh rushed upon David from that day forward. The Spirit of Yahweh rushed upon David. If you watch the new David movie on Angel Studios, fantastic movie. Um, Great movie. It's a cartoon. It's for children, but great movie. When Samuel anoints David, the winds come through and it's like, whew, right? And they kind of come through the house and it goes kind of dark. I would imagine something like that would happen. That the Ruach, also known as wind, right? Breath, comes upon David. Like I could see it like, right? The house goes dark. Or a presence is felt, right? Like it's almost like a blanket covering everybody, right? And from that day forward, the Spirit of Yahweh is on David. Then Samuel set out and went to Ramoth, and you can finish the rest of that story later. So he proves our hearts, right? And think about what it means to prove your heart, right? To prove yourself and to show yourself approved. All right. Back to Thessalonians 5. Think about think about what Paul has said, okay? We're going to get into some other stuff. Think about what Paul said. He said, "Guys, you saw us and you had a witness, you had an imitation of us, but in reality, we were imitating Yeshua, so reality, you're imitating Yeshua. We are a witness unto you, and we've come unto you, and we've shown you these things, and we were not worried about pleasing man, we were worried about pleasing the Father." And what did Yeshua do? Right? Was Yeshua down here like, well, the Pharisees, they kind of want me to stop teaching, so I'll go ahead and stop today, but like, I'm definitely going to teach tomorrow. No, he was like, I don't have a problem doing anything that my Father asks me to do, whether I have one or a million behind me, or one or a million against me. I am showing myself approved before the Father. So here we are in 1 Thessalonians again, verse 5. He says, "For we never came with a word of flattery, as you know, nor with a cloak of greed. The Father is our witness. Nor were we looking for praise from men, not from you or from any others, though we could have been a burden to you as emissaries of Messiah." What do you mean, Paul? You could have. Well, could Paul not have clearly just said, guys, so I was talking and the Father said, you need to give me your life saving. You need a tithe, guys. You need to tithe. And they said, well, Paul, why, Paul? That's, guys, I'm from the Messiah. We need some money. Do you remember, also going back to Samuel, the sons of Heli, what they were doing? Phineas and Phineas, they were what? They were taking the sacrifices, and the people said, "You're not supposed to take those. Those are for the." And they said, "We're the high priest. We're the high priest's son. We are the priest. Would you like us not to sacrifice for you?" And the people are like, "Well, we really want our sacrifices done so our sins can be forgiven." Well, then you just shut up and you do what we're telling you to do, and you bring us this food, and we will be the ones to decide which portions go to the Father. And the people are like, guys, you're not supposed to take that portion. You're doing it wrong, right? So they could have, Paul says, we could have been a burden on you because we're emissaries of the Messiah, but we didn't. We had no greed. We were not seeking praise from men or others. So check this out. This is a bunch of different pastors, right? So top left. Oh, look, two famous people we know have sold their soul unto the prince of this world, right? Right? Oh, look, recognition and praise of men wearing shoes that cost $2,500. There's that guy wearing a Louis Vuitton jacket that cost $8,200. In the top right, he's wearing a pair of sneakers that cost $3,700. On the far right, the white dude with the little boy in the red shirt, $800 sneakers. On the bottom right, the guy in the gray sweater, $1,100 sneakers. Bottom center, a $3,500 Gucci jacket and $1,400 Balenciaga. If you know anything about Balenciaga, that's just pure evil. Rhino boots. And then on the bottom left, it's that same guy, that same pastor, wearing $5,600 shoes. You think these men are a burden on their congregations? Think about it. You think these men are a burden on their congregations? You don't think that they're setting an expectation? You don't think they're setting some kind of presence to these people? You know what's the funniest thing of all? It's probably hard to read, but this one right here with the circle that I'm circling with the mouse, he says, I'm sorry I can't be what you want me to be or look like what you think I should look like. I do not look like you because I'm not trying to win you. What I have to be, what I have to be has been chosen for whatever. I didn't finish it because it's silly. He's literally saying, right? I'm not for sale. That's his thing, not for sale. You're in a freaking $8,200 jacket. You're in an $8,200 jacket. Think of how many people that could feed. How much money sitting on his hands and his wrists? Who knows? I'm not saying you can't have nice things. I'm not saying you're supposed to give everything away. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these men are being a burden on their congregations. They're claiming to teach the word of the Most High. They're claiming to do these things, but they're looking for recognition of men. Because if he cared, that would not be on Instagram. That's a stupid post that man will recognize him. Oh, my pastor can't be sold. He's chosen for something great. That's seeking recognition of men. Yeshua warns us, right? Paul says, we've not come in greed. We have not sought after the praise of man. We have not become a burden on you. Well, what do we mean, right? What do we think about what he means by greed, right? It says an intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, right there. Power or food, right? Power. Yeah, these people get wealthy, whatever. They want the power. They want the recognition of man. Right? And Yeshua in Matthew chapter 6, Yeshua warns of this. Right? He says, beware in verse 1, beware of doing your kind deeds before men in order to be seen by them. Is he saying do no kind in front of men? No. He's saying if you're going to do this kind deed, it doesn't matter if you have an audience or you're the only two people left in the world, do the kind deed. The audience and the attendance and the eyes watching should not change your deed. If you're going to give this guy $20 and all of a sudden somebody's there that you like or you want to impress and you give him 40, that's completely wrong. You did not give that man money to give him money to help the homeless or the needy or the poor. You gave that man so that the other man or other woman or whatever could see you give and recognize you. That's why you did it. It says, beware of doing your kind deeds before men in order to be seen by them. Doing the deeds so that you can be seen. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in the heavens. Thus, when you do a kind deed, do not sound a trumpet before as the hypocrites do, and the congregation and in the streets, to be praised by men. Truly I say to you, they have their reward. Oh, guys, I went and I gave all this money, I did all this great stuff, and I did all these things. Now, if you went to somebody and said, dude, craziest thing happened to me. I was like, I need to do something, Father, use me. And he was like, go help it feed at this homeless shelter. And then I went and I fed homeless shelter. Dude, I felt such a, honestly, I think you should come with me. You're not doing that. You're not telling that other person so that they will look at you different. You're telling them like, dude, this will help your soul. Like, I'm not lying. I feel my week has gone so good because I went and fed people on Monday night at the homeless shelter. And like, I just feel like I can sleep better. Like I just feel like I did something to truly be proud of and happy of. And I think if you did it, you would feel the same way. That person wouldn't be seeking recognition of man. They'd be trying to get other men and other people to also have that same feeling of, I've done something that is acceptable and pleasing in my Father's eyes. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But when these people are like, oh, look at all this great stuff I did, they put it on YouTube and they're like, we're gonna go around today and we're gonna give out bags of food and toothpaste and deodorant and stuff to homeless people. You know how many random church people go do that every day and they don't put it on YouTube or Instagram, and then they get blessed by the Father because they're just doing it to go help people because they feel like they were told to go do it. But then all these people that go on YouTube and make millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars on one video, they got their reward. Their reward was money. They didn't seek praise from the Father. They didn't seek reward from the Father. They sought a earthly reward. Listen, he says, you have no reward in verse 1. You have no reward from your Father. But then in verse 2, he says they have their reward. So they did get rewarded, but their reward was not the reward in which you want. That was not a treasure up in heaven that does not rust, that moth and rust does not corrupt. That was an earthly reward that they received. They got whatever they got, recognition of men, money, praise, who knows, whatever they got. Verse 3, but when you do a kind deed, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your kind deed will be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will himself reward you openly. Right? If you tell another about a kind deed you've done because you need their help or their assistance, or maybe you think they could help later, or maybe you want to do it again, or maybe they were thinking about doing something and they were on the fence and you went and did it and you're like, dude, I definitely think you should do it. This was a fantastic thing. Nothing wrong with that. When you do a reward and you go tell your friend, oh, yeah, I'm such a good person, dude. It's like, well, we obviously know you didn't do it for the Father. You definitely did it for yourself. Verse 5. And when you pray, you will not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the congregations and on the corners in the streets to be seen by men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward. Their goal is to be loved, praised, attention of men. That's it. That's what their reward is. They want recognition, wealth, power, authority, whatever. 6, but you, when you pray, go in your room. Having shut your door, pray unto your Father who is in a secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. And when praying, do not keep babbling like the Gentiles, like the heathens, for they think that they'll be heard for their many words. Therefore, do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Every morning, Cora comes down, and if me and Zuki are downstairs, she looks at us like we have no idea, and she says, I'm hungry, I need food, oh, I'm withering away. We already knew that before. We heard stomping upstairs, and we know who's awake and who's not awake. And we know who's coming down the stairs like a bull and who's coming down like a bird. And we know, oh, there's Cora. And then the first thing, Zuki, oh, she's going to be hungry. Let me get up and get her something. And then Cora comes down thinking we have no idea. And she's like, oh, I'm so hungry. I'm like, yeah, we know. We already got food for you. That's us. We're like, oh, yeah, oh, this thing. And he's like, yeah, I know. I got it. Yeah. Trust me, I saw this 6 months ago when you made that dumb decision. And I thought, well, you're going to regret that. But we'll just let this play out in 6 months. All right. He already knows what we need before we even ask him. All right. Back to Thessalonians. Chapter 2, verse 7. Remember, Paul says, we were not coming to you being a burden on you, coming in greed. We could have. He says, though we could have been a burden on you as emissaries of the Messiah, we could have used our power of the being an emissary of the Messiah and taken advantage of you, but we didn't. He says, 7, but we were gentle in your midst, like a nursing mother warmly loving her own children. So, having a tender affection for you, we were well pleased to share with you not only the good news of Elohim, but also our own lives, because you have become beloved to us. So, when Paul is saying we got to do these things out of love, out of the Spirit, out of the Ruach, this is what he's talking about. He's not pleasing the man by saying this sin is acceptable, homosexuality is acceptable, this is acceptable, that's okay. He's not doing that. But he's having a conversation with one person that cares truly about the other, saying like, dude, this is not good. You cannot be doing this. Let me show you why it's not good. Let me show you how it's not good. Let me show you the proof and the evidence that this is not a good thing for you. I'm not coming to you to tell you you're wrong so that I can be happy that I told you you're wrong. I'm coming to tell you the truth so that you can adjust yourself and find yourself acceptable before the Most High. That's that tender affection that Paul has that we should have for others. He says in 9, for you remember, brothers, our toil and hardship for laboring night and day in order not to burden any of you. We proclaim to you the good news of Elohim. So not only were they not a burden, but could have been, that they labored night and day so they would not be a burden unto you. But in all of this labor, we still managed to proclaim the good news, the gospel, right? The good news that we are expecting and we are waiting and trusting and believing in. Let's go to those mega churches and see if these men are truly doing what they're talking about. 10, you are witnesses, and the Father also. You're a witness, the Father's a witness, how set apart and righteous and blameless we have behaved ourselves among you who believe. Wow. Paul is saying that he was set apart and righteous and blameless when he was around them. Even as you know how each one of you, as a father to his children, encouraging and comforting and bearing witness to you, that you would walk worthily of Elohim, who is calling you into his own reign and esteem. He told them, I was a witness to you guys. I acted to you guys. I wasn't a burden to you guys. I labored night and day so I wouldn't be a burden, but I still made it a priority to please and be approved of the Father and not pleasing of men. We didn't come to you with greed. We didn't come to you in haste. We didn't come to you with contention. We came to you with love and gentleness to teach you the ways and to explain to you about Yeshua the Messiah. We saw the power was given unto you. We believe you are our brothers. We believe that you believe in the Father. We believe that you trust and are also waiting the expectation of the Master Yeshua Messiah. And here we are. Just as a father encourages his children to do the right thing, we are also encouraging that you would walk worthily of the Father who is calling you into his reign and esteem. And because of this, we thank the Father without ceasing, that when you received the word of Elohim, which you heard from us, you welcomed it, not as the word of men, but as it is truly the word of Elohim, which also works in you who believe. Right? How many times have you ever talked to somebody about the Bible and you're like, oh, let me tell you about the Messiah? And they're like, oh, yeah, cool. Well, that was written by man, and like, you know how men are. That person did not welcome it as the word of Elohim. They welcomed it as the word of man. People that look at the flood and say, well, it didn't happen like that. Okay, well, then you're looking at it as the word of men and you're taking it as the word of man, you're not taking it as the word of the Most High. Well, there weren't giants. There weren't real giants. There were just people that were like 7.5, 8 feet tall. Okay, so it's a bunch of NBA teams running around, terrorizing midgets, apparently. All of the children of Israel were midgets. And then there were just NBA teams. The Globetrotters were the bad guys in all of these towns. That's what we're going to say. Well, then you can accept that as the word of men because that sounds ridiculous. Or we can just say they were average sized men somewhere in the 5 to 6 foot range, like an average male today, because we have no other reasons to believe that they weren't just similar to us in stature and height. And that when they went into the land, that they were terrified. And when they said, we are like grasshoppers, I'm 6'1", 6'2" on a good day. And I've never looked at an 8-foot man and go, I'm like a grasshopper. I'm like a little baby in his eyes. That's never been to my thought. I just thought, wow, you're tall, dude. You got like a whole head on me. Now, if I came in contact with a guy who was like 18 to 20 feet tall, well, then I might be like, dude, I'm like a freaking bug, dude. He's going to squish me. Then maybe I would, maybe that thought, maybe my mind would go back to the spies and I would be like, okay, I don't even come up or I'm equal to this dude's kneecap. Like I'm looking at his shin. I could see why they would say they were like grasshoppers, right? That would be me taking it as the word of Elohim, not welcoming it like the word of men, where I can say, well, I don't really believe that happened like that. It's a nice story and all, and that's like a children's thing, but like I don't really believe the whole earth flooded. It says he flooded the earth. I accept that as the word of Elohim, and I also accept that maybe there's some stuff I just don't understand. I could understand later, or maybe I never understand until I'm presented before the Son and the Father. But, eventually my questions will be answered, right? But if we accept it as it is, the word of Elohim, then it works in us. We see changes inside of us. Paul says that. I saw the works in you. All you that believe, I saw it, and I'm like, wow, that's a believer, right? I've seen the Ruach go up on these people, and I know that they are who they say they are. Verse 14. For you, brothers, became imitators of the assemblies of Elohim, which are in Judah, in Messiah Yeshua, because you also suffered the same treatment from your own countrymen, as they also from the Yehudim, from the Jews. Well, you have to become like Jews? No, Paul's saying, I watched what happened to my Jewish brothers who were in the Messiah, in their own country, be run off and have to restart their lives. I have seen that you also are under persecution of your own people and are having to uproot yourself and change your daily habits and maybe move locations. He's saying, I saw that. The Jews, that happened to my people that were believers in the Messiah. The same thing is happening to you. Because they were persecuted from the Jews, 15, who killed both the Master Yeshua and their own prophets. Hey, if you go back and look, you can even do a quick Google search. How many of the prophets in the Bible were killed by their own people? It will surprise you. They have throughout time snuffed out the word of Elohim. And that's why the parable. He says, the parable of the vineyard, of the worker, right? He sends one of his servants and they kill the servant. He sends another servant. Finally, he sends his son and they said, here's the heir. Let's kill him and it'll be ours. That's his people. They killed all the prophets. Not every single one of them. Almost all of them, right? They snuffed out the word. They snuffed out the promises. They snuffed out the opportunity for him to come and correction and guidance and inspiration and teaching and knowledge and wisdom. They snuffed it out. They killed the prophets, just like they killed Yeshua. He says, And they have persecuted us who displease Elohim and are hostile to all men, forbidding us to speak to the Gentiles that they might be saved so as to fill up their sin always. So I'm going to read that again. The Jews who killed Yeshua and the prophets, they displease Elohim. They're hostile to all men. They have persecuted us. They were forbidding us to speak to the Gentiles because they feared the Gentiles would be saved. But they wanted to fill up the sins of the Gentiles. This is the same thing happening today, guys. It's the same thing happening today. Jewish people come into a community, and when I say Jewish people, I'm referring to the Jews who say they are Jews but are not Jews of the synagogue of Satan. Those ones who call themselves Jews. They come into a place, they point the finger, they fill the blame, they buy up the stuff, they push the guilt and the sin and the evil upon others, not themselves. They are hostile to all men. They displease the Father. They displease the Master. They refute the Master. It says, but the wrath has come upon them to the utmost. But we, brothers, having been taken away from you for a short while, in presence, not in heart. Paul's a big spiritual thing. Yeah, I might not have been there physically with you, but remember how he started this. How he started the letter. We are praying for you always. So in the spirit, Paul's saying, I'm always here, man. I'm always praying for you. I'm making sure everything's good. I might not be here in presence, but in heart and spirit, I'm here. He says, we were much eagerly trying to see your face with much longing. We would therefore have to come to you. I indeed saw more than once, but Hasatan, the adversary, has hindered us. For what is our expectation or joy or crown of boasting? It is not even you before our Master Yeshua Messiah at his coming. For you are our esteem and joy. Think about that. A Jew of Jews, right? Someone who is sanctioned and approved by the high priest himself to go out and hunt believers of the Master, believers of Yeshua, is standing here saying, my joy and my crown of boasting is you Gentiles who have come to the Master Yeshua Messiah, who are awaiting his second coming. You are our esteem and joy. You know how riled up and mad these others had to have been that someone with the stature and the title of Paul is sitting there saying that his joy is that Gentiles are being saved? Why do you think why do you think these men are treated so hostily when they go to these places? Right? What is it? The blood of water is, or the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Well, the brother that was rejected or refuted, he's just going to look at it like, that's my brother. How could he do this to me? We're blood. We have the same mother. How could you do this for this man we don't even know that you just met? Well, that's my brother in the Messiah. We're both waiting and have the same expectation. We have the same set of rules. We're loyal to one master, and that master has directed us to do this. You worship and respect another authority, right? And Paul's saying, you guys are my brother. You're my brother for you, brothers. 14. For you, brothers. You have the expectation of our Master Yeshua Messiah and the belief of our Elohim and Father. Before our Messiah and his coming, for you are our joy and esteem. That's the reason why Paul is singing the praises and all these things, because they've accepted the Master. All right, chapter 3. I think we will do, I don't know what time it is. Okay. We will wrap up 3, maybe 4 if we can get through it, and then we'll pause. So we don't run too long. All right. So when we could no longer stand it, we thought it good to be left in Athens alone. And we sent Timothy, our brother and servant of Elohim, and our fellow worker of the good news of the Messiah, to establish you and encourage you concerning your belief, that no one should be able to be unsettled by these pressures. For you yourselves know that we are appointed for this. For indeed, we did inform you beforehand, we were with you that we would suffer pressure, and so it came to be as you know. Because of this, when I could no longer stand it, I sent to find out about your belief, lest the trying one might have tried you, and our labor would be vain, useless. So he's saying, hey guys, I sent Timothy concerning your belief. So let me ask you this. So Timothy got there and went door to door. Do you believe in our Master Yeshua Messiah? We do. Okay, thanks. Do you believe in our Master Yeshua Messiah? Oh, yeah, in this house we do. Awesome, thanks. Do you believe? Hey, Paul, I went and knocked on everybody's door and they all said, yeah, we're good to go. You think that's what Timothy did when he went and was sent to find out about their belief? Or do you think that when Timothy was there, maybe there was a lot of physical things that he saw, things that they were doing in reality, and he said, man, I have seen these things and these are believers. Their belief is strong. Because that's what Timothy does. He says, 6, but now that Timothy has come to us from you, come back, having brought us good news of your belief and love, and that you always have good remembrance of us, longing to see us as we to see you. So Timothy came back and reported, guys, they're doing great. You think Timothy came back and like, there's no more idols in all their homes. They've gotten rid of those other things. They've actually converted. They did this, they did that. Now I can't even, before when we got there, you could buy pig in the market. Now you can't, it's like impossible to find. Right? He would have seen these changes, come back to Paul and said, hey, this is what I saw when I was there. It says, therefore, brothers, in all our pressure, 7, and distress, we were encouraged concerning you by your belief. Paul is being encouraged by the belief that he is being reported back from the mouth of Timothy of these Gentiles in Thessalonica. Think of that. That's encouraging Paul. 8, because we now live, and if you stand fast in the master, for what thanks we are able to return to the Father for you, and all the joy with which we rejoice for your sake in the presence of our Father, night and day praying exceedingly to see your face and to make complete what is lacking in your belief. And our Father, our Elohim, and our Father himself, and our Master Yeshua Messiah direct our way to you. And the Master make you increase and overflow in love to each other and to all, so as we do to you. So he's just saying, like, dude, I heard about Timothy and I'm stoked. You're encouraging us. We cannot wait to be back there with you. We're praying day and night so that we can help complete whatever it is that you're lacking, right? If you're lacking something, like whatever we could do to help you, right? But we can't wait. We are excited. We are waiting for our Father and our Master to direct our way to you. Paul is said, I am waiting for our Father and our Master to finally tell me, time to go back to Thessalonica. Paul's not picking and choosing. He's just doing what he's told to do. He's making himself approved. He says, 12, and the Master make you increase and overflow in love with each other to all so as to we you. Just like we were to you guys, this is how you guys should be. Ready? And we're gonna go on a little detour here. So be ready to flip. 13, to establish your heart, there it is again, blameless in set apartness before our Elohim and Father at the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah with all his set apart ones. What's this whole thing about? Paul's saying, we're trying to prepare you guys so that we can make sure to help you so that you can establish your heart blameless and set apartness before the Father at the coming of Yeshua Messiah, our Master, with all of his set apart ones. So let's look into this, right? Let's go back to Psalms. Psalms 7, verse 8 it says, Yahweh will judge the nations. Judge me, O Yahweh, according to my righteousness and according to my innocence that is in me. Oh, let the wickedness of sinners come to an end, and then you will direct the righteous. Oh, Elohim that searches the heart and reigns. My help is righteous, coming from Elohim who saves the upright in heart. Elohim is a righteous judge and strong and patient, not inflicting vengeance every day. So he's saying, hey, right, what is David singing of? He says, judge me, search my heart, save who is upright in heart. For I know that you're righteous judgment. You're strong and patient. You're not inflicting vengeance every day. He says, then you will direct the righteous. What did Paul say? He said, hey guys, right here in 11, I'm waiting for the Father and Master to direct our way to you. And David says that you will direct the righteous. Imagine that. So, directing the righteous. Paul says, direct us. When the Father tells us to go back to you, we're going to go back to you. And David's saying, oh, that you direct the righteous. You search the heart. You save the upright in heart. All right, we're going to dip back into Thessalonians real quick, and then we're going to jump back out. This is the beginning of chapter 4. And then we'll pause after this. He says, for the rest, then, brothers, we beg you and call upon you in the Master Yeshua, that as you received from us how you should walk and to please Elohim, you should excel still more. For you know what commands we gave you through the Master Yeshua Messiah. How you should walk, please the Father. You need to excel more, right? Don't just be content with where you're at. We can always get better. Well, back to David's Psalms. He said, blessed are all, this is Psalm 128, the whole thing. Blessed are all who fear Yahweh, who walk in his ways. You will eat the labor of your hands. Be blessed and let it be well with you. Let your wife be as a fruit-bearing vine within your houses, your sons like olive plants all around your table. Look, so will the man be blessed who fears Yahweh. Yahweh will bless you out of Zion and will let you see the good in Jerusalem all the days of your life, and let you see your children's children. Peace be upon you. Walk in his ways, and you'll eat of the labor of your hands. You'll be blessed. Your wife will be barren. Your sons will be like an olive plant. They'll just keep growing all over the place. Fearing in Yahweh, he'll bless you out of Zion. You'll have good long days, and you'll see your children's children. You'll grow old age. Your children will grow old and have children of their own. Right? So we looked at the anointing of David. We looked at some stuff in Samuel. We looked at some Psalms of David. Now let's go to one of David's sons, because although Solomon did much evil in the eyes of Yahweh, there is something good to learn from him and to pay attention. So this is 1 Kings chapter 3. It says, "And Solomon joined in marriage with Pharaoh, sovereign king of Mitzrayim. And he took the daughter of Pharaoh and brought her to the city of David until he had completed building his own house and the house of Yahweh and the wall all around Jerusalem. Only the people slaughtered at the high places, for a house of the name of Yahweh had not been built yet until those days. And Solomon loved Yahweh, walking in the Torah, the laws of his father David, in the ways of his father David, except that he slaughtered and burned incense at the high places. And the sovereign went into Gideon and to slaughter there, for there was a great high place. And Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. And Gideon Yahweh appeared unto Solomon in a dream at night. And Elohim said unto him, Ask what I should give you. And Solomon said, You have shown great kindness to your servant David my father, as he walked before you in truth and in righteousness and in uprightness of heart with you. Think about that. We just saw an issue of the heart. We've seen it multiple times. We see it all through Deuteronomy. We see it all through Isaiah. We see it all in Ezekiel. We see it all in the prophets. We see it all in Yeshua. We see it in the writings of the apostles. And then we see it in David. He's saying, you are to judge in the upright of heart. And Solomon is calling out David's uprightness of heart. He says, and you have guarded for him this great kindness, and did give him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Yahweh, my Elohim, you have set up your servant to reign instead of my father David. But I am a child, and I do not know to go out or to come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you've chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted. Will you then give to your servant an understanding heart to rule your people, to discern between good and evil? For who is able to rule this great people of yours? And the word was good in the eyes of Yahweh that Solomon had asked this. So Elohim said unto him, Because you have asked this, and you have not asked for a long life for yourself, nor have you asked for riches for yourself, nor have you asked the life of your enemies, but you have asked for yourself discernment to understand right ruling. See, I will do according to your words. See, I will give you a wise and understanding heart, so that there is none like you before you, and there shall be none to arise after you. I just thought of something. And I will always give you what you have not asked, both. And I will also give you what you have not asked, both riches and esteem. So there will be none like you and among you all the kings of your days. If you walk in my ways, if you guard my Torah, my commands, as your father David walked, then I will prolong your days. And Solomon awoke, and see, it was a dream. And he came into Jerusalem, and he stood before the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, and offered burnt offerings, and made peace offerings, and he made a feast for all of his servants. You guys remember earlier when we read in Jeremiah 17, he says, the heart is beyond cure. Jeremiah said, the heart's beyond cure. What did Solomon get? A heart that discerns and understands right ruling. He says, 12, I will do according to your words. I will give you a wise and understanding heart. Why do you think that Jeremiah said there is no cure for this heart? How did Solomon go bad? Why did Solomon have 700 wives, 300 concubines, and why did Solomon go on the high hills and sacrifice to other gods? Why would he do that? I don't know. But I think this is why reading in, I just thought, yeah, it's probably why Jeremiah said the heart is uncurable. Just like those men that walked with Yeshua and saw these things and said, "Oh man, I can't understand this. I better just go away." There was something in their heart that just wasn't, it just wasn't there. All right. Verse 3, back to Thessalonians 4, verse 3. For this is the desire of Elohim, your set apartness. Now, we've already covered a lot of this. We've read about this. John chapter 6, um, which I guess I'll pull up really fast. I probably should have put it in here, but I didn't. Because I didn't. So here we go. John 6. Right? We'll start at verse we'll start at 30. Okay, we'll start at 29. Yeshua answered and said to them, "This is the work of Elohim, that you believe in him who he sent." So they said to him, "What sign then would you do that we see and believe you? And what would you do? Our fathers ate the man in the wilderness, as has been written, and he gave them bread out of heaven to eat." And therefore Yeshua said, "Truly, truly, I say to you, Moses did not give you the bread out of heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread out of heaven. For the bread of Elohim is he who comes down out of heaven and gives life to the world." And so they said to him, "Master, give us this bread always." And Yeshua said, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will not get hungry at all, and he who believes in me will not get thirsty at all. But I said to you that you have seen me, and you still do not believe. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out. Because I have come down out of heaven, not to do my will, but the will of him who sent me. This is the will of the Father. If you don't have this highlighted, you should be highlighting this. This is the will of the Father who sent me, that all he has given me, I will not lose of it, but will raise it in the last day. This is the will of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him will possess everlasting life, and I will raise him up in the last day. This is the will of the Father, right here. You want to say, "Oh, the will of the Father is that I did this." The will of the Father is that everyone who sees the Son and believes, he, Yeshua, will give everlasting life and will raise him up to the Father in the last day. That's the will of the Most High. So, Paul says, "For this is the desire of Elohim, that your set apartness," remember that, your set apartness prepares you for this journey, right? Prepares you for the journey that is to come, right? What does this set apartness look like, right? Leviticus 20, he says, "And you will be set apart to me. For I, Yahweh, am set apart and have separated you from all the peoples, all the nations to be mine." Deuteronomy 7. It's a little bit of reading. Deuteronomy 7, we're reading all of it. He says, "When Yahweh your Elohim brings you into the land which I go to possess, he will also clear away many nations before you: the Hittites, the Girgasites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Pezerites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than you. And when Yahweh your Elohim gives them over to you, you will smite them and put them under the ban completely. Make no covenant with them, and show them no favor. And do not intermarry with them. You do not give your daughter to his son, and you do not take his daughter for your son. For he turns your sons away from following me to serve other mighty ones. Then the displeasure of Yahweh will burn against you and promptly destroy you. But this is what you will do to them: break down their altars, smash their pillars, cut down their poles of Ashtaroth, and burn their carved images with fire. For you are a set apart people unto Yahweh your Elohim. Yahweh your Elohim has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession. You're not just a person, you're a treasured possession above all the peoples of the face of the earth. Yahweh did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more numerous than other people. For you were the least of all the peoples. But because Yahweh loves you, and because of him guarding the oath which he swore to your fathers, Yahweh has brought you out with a strong hand and redeemed you from the house of bondage and the hand of Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. And you will know that Yahweh your Elohim, he is Elohim, the trustworthy El, guarding covenant and kindness for 1,000 generations with those who love him. For 1,000 generations, that's forever, guys. With those who love him and those who guard his commands. But repaying those who hate him to their face, to destroy them. He does not delay to do so with them who he hates him. He repays them to his face. And you will guard the command and the Torah and the right rulings which I command you today to do to them. And it will be because you hear these right rulings and you will guard them that Yahweh your Elohim will guard you. The covenant and the kindness which he swore to your fathers, and will love you and bless you and increase you, and will bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land and the grain of your new wine and your oil, and increase your cattle and the offspring of their flock in the land which he swore to give to your fathers, which he swore your fathers to give you. Blessed are you above all people. There is not going to be a barren man or a barren woman among you or among your livestock. And Yahweh will turn away from you all sickness, and will put on none of the evil diseases of Mitzrayim which you have known, but he will put on them of those that hate you. And you will consume all the people whom Yahweh your Elohim is delivering over to you. Your eye will not pardon them, and do not serve their mighty ones, for that is a snare unto you. Paul's not worried about pleasing men. Deuteronomy, Moses is saying, don't worry about pleasing people. Please the Father. Do what's right before the Father. Guard his commands. Guard his Torah. Guard his right rulings. Guard everything that he has told us to do on this day. Love him, and he will love you and guard you and protect you. Paul is saying the same thing. Paul is saying the same thing. 17. And when you say in your heart, there it is again, oh, these nations are greater than I am unable to drive them out. Do not be afraid of them. Remember well what Yahweh your Elohim did unto Pharaoh and to all of Mitzrayim, the great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs and wonders, and the strong hand and outstretched arm by which Yahweh your Elohim brought you out. Yahweh your Elohim does so to all people of whom you are afraid. Anybody, anything, he can easily cast out, easily take care of. 20. And Yahweh your Elohim also sends the hornet among them, those that are left, who hide themselves from you and are destroyed. Do not be afraid of them. For Yahweh your Elohim, the great and awesome El, is in your midst. And Yahweh your Elohim will drive out those nations before you, little by little. You are not allowed to destroy them at once, lest the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Imagine this, guys. Like, you talk about the creation, and we go, okay, well, how does the creation work? Well, in order for there to be plants, you need water. But if I just throw water on the ground and there's no plants or trees or anything to suck it up and drink it, it'll just be flooded. So we look at the creation. Well, we need light for plants to be able to process the water. So what's the order of events that need to occur? Oh yeah, we create light. And then we create dry ground. And then we do grass and herbs and trees, and dew comes upon the earth. Well, now for those trees and those plants and these herbs not to overgrow, we need to put animals on the earth, and these animals eat. If you look at the creation, it's exactly in the order it needs to for everything to work correctly. If I give plants water and no light, they die. If I give plants light and no water, they die. If I give water to the earth and there's no plants to soak it up, it floods and causes destruction. Right? So he's saying, hey, if I go out there and we just kill everybody, then the wild beasts of the field will be too many and overcome and overpower you. But if we take them out little by little, along the way, the beasts of the field will become less, so that when you take over this land, it's not running wild. He said, no wild beasts will come upon you. Where's all the wild beasts? They're going upon all of those people that are in the land you're about to take over. But if you take all those people, there'll be a bunch of wild beasts left. If we slowly take out the people, then the beasts will slowly be taken out as well. There's a plan that most of the time we don't really see because we don't see the end of it. We see the beginning and we don't understand how we get to the end. Right? When you take a really long road trip, you map your GPS and you're like 1,400 miles and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much time. And then at the end of your journey, you look and you're like, oh man, we only got 140 miles left. We're killing it. But 3 weeks ago, you had to drive 60 miles and you're like, oh, 60 miles? Oh my God, so far away. But here you are rejoicing 140. Once we get to the end, it doesn't look like that much. And that much doesn't look like as much as it did before we began this journey. But in the beginning, it looked like way too much. 22. And Yahweh Elohim will drive out those nations before you, little by little, that you're not allowed to destroy them at once, lest the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. But Yahweh your Elohim will deliver them over to you and destroy them with great destruction until they are consumed. And he will give their kings into your hands, and you will destroy their name from under the heavens. No one is going to be able to stand against you until you have destroyed them. The carved images of their mighty ones you are to burn with fire. Do not covet the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it for yourselves. Lest you be snared by it, for it is an abomination to Yahweh Elohim. And do not bring an abomination into your house. Let you be accursed like it. Lest you be accursed like it. Utterly loathe it and utterly hate it, for it is a curse. So, from Yvonne, think about this. If I want to be pleasing unto the Most High, and I'm not as worried about being pleasing to man, and my family member calls me and they're like, hey, we want to do, every year we do Christmas at your house, right? And you're like, yeah, I know we do, but we're not going to do it this year because we've decided to keep the Father. We've decided to keep his ways. And they're like, yeah, well, we'll just still come over and we'll just do all this stuff, I guess. And you're like, well, you know what? Are we going to please the Father or are we going to please man? Because if we bring these things into our home, then we are becoming cursed like them. Think about it. We bring these evil things into our home. Well, is our home a house where the Father wants to dwell? Or did we just kick him out by allowing this other thing in? Right? You're sitting there on the couch, and all of a sudden you're at a friend's house, and they're like, "Yeah, come on in, guys." And you're like, "Oh, what about to do?" "We're about to smoke a bunch of cigars." And you're like, "Dude, I have bad lungs. I don't want to. I can't breathe all this in." And everybody starts lighting up cigars around you, and the room's filled with smoke. You're like, "Well, time for me to leave, guys. I told you if you light those cigars, I gotta leave. I can't be in this room with you." You're basically doing that with the presence of these other idols and these other things inside your home. You're basically looking at the Father and saying, "Sorry, I guess just deal with it if you want to be here." I don't know. It's up to you. Again, Deuteronomy 14, he says, "You are the children of Yahweh your Elohim. Do not cut yourselves nor shave the front of your head for the dead." We're not getting into that. Two, for you are a set apart people to Yahweh your Elohim, and Yahweh has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession. There he is again, above all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. Here Moses says again, reminding them, guys, you're chosen by the Most High. Be set apart from the nations. Don't do these things. You go read Deuteronomy 14, you'll see a bunch of other stuff that tell us not to do. Right? Like literally verse 3 says, do not eat anything that is an abomination for the Most High. Don't eat unclean foods. And then he goes on, right? We're reading about these things. We're learning these things. This is why Paul says, guys, abstain from things sacrificed to idols. Do not eat the blood and keep yourself from sexual immorality. Those three things are the first driving factors. And once you start doing these things, it's not the Torah read in the Sabbath in the synagogue every Sabbath, meaning every Sabbath they're going to be learning new and new and new and more and understanding, and week by week by week, month by month, year by year, they are perfecting themselves to become his treasured possession. We all got to start somewhere. And that's what Paul's getting at. We all got to start somewhere to become his treasured possession, his chosen people. And that's okay. We're learning. And maybe it takes you 4 months to stop eating unclean foods. Maybe it takes you 4 minutes. Awesome. You stopped, and that's all that matters. Maybe you're keeping the Sabbath. Maybe you're doing these other things. That's awesome. It doesn't matter that it took a year or 2 years to come to you came, right? The 10 virgins, those unwise virgins could have left at any time to go fill their lamps. They could have left at any time. The fact that they chose not to was their own decision. The fact that they went too late when the doors were closing, that was their mistake. Yeah, it was wrong of them to let their lamps run out. And it was also wrong of them to not constantly be filling their lamp. So, Thessalonians, this is the desire of Elohim, your set apartness. Why is this important? Because you're showing yourself acceptable and clean, obedient, observance unto the Father, to the Messiah, to what they taught. You're showing you want to be a part of this family. He says in 3, for the desire of Elohim is your set apartness, that you should abstain from whoring, that each one of you should know how to possess his own vessel in set apartness and respect. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a guide. You don't need this person telling you how it is you're supposed to do all these things. Right? We should possess this ourselves. We should know this ourselves, and we do. 5, not in passion of lusts like the Gentiles who do not know Elohim, not to overstep and take advantage of his brother in this matter, because the master is the revenger of all such. As we indeed said to you before and earnestly warned. For if Elohim did not call us to uncleanliness, but in set apartness. Therefore, he who rejects this does not reject man, but the Father, who also gives us his set apart spirit. So he's saying anybody that rejects this lifestyle, and that's why the people have been duped and fooled and deceived to believe in a God that does not exist and cannot save. And you should be joyous and glad that you have been not a part of that group, or you were a part of that group and you've been pulled out of that group, right? Because you know the truth and you know the way and the life. And you know that that way and that life and that truth points back to the Father. So if you reject this, think about what Paul is saying. This is a very, very heavy couple verses. The Father did not call us to uncleanliness. Well, if you take your time, go back into the Torah, go read what makes you unclean. He says he didn't call you to be unclean, but he called you to be set apart. Set apart from what? From the nations, from all of these heathens that cry in the streets and do all these things and do all that. He set us apart from all of these people that worship vain idols and other gods and do these things and do these things and eat idols, eat food sacrificed to idols, and go up on high places. He set us apart from all that. But the one who rejects this, the one who rejects uncleanliness and rejects his set apartness, he's not rejecting men. He's rejecting the Father. And he's rejecting the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, the set apart spirit that the Father gives you. Think about that. Paul is saying if you do not heed the call of uncleanliness and set apartness, or of cleanliness and set apartness, then you're rejecting not man, but the Father and the Ruach HaKodesh. You're waning away the blessing of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. You're filling your house with cigar smoke so he leaves. Because your neighbors really like coming to your house to do it. And you're pleasing men. He says 9, it is not necessary to write to you about brotherly love, for you yourselves are taught by Elohim to love one another. Huh. Interesting. Didn't Yeshua say the two greatest commands, these two on which the law and the prophets, the Torah and the prophets hang? He says, love the Father more than anyone or anything, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. But Paul's saying that the Father taught us to love one another. Very interesting. He says, for in fact, you do so toward all the brothers who are in Macedonia, but we call upon you, brothers, that you do more and more. All right, we'll finish up 11 really quick and then we'll stop. And we'll get into all this stuff later because I was hoping to stop before 11, but all right, 11. And make it your ambition to live peaceably and to attend to your own and to work with your own hands as we commanded you, so that you behave decently towards those who are outside and not be in any need. Think about, he's saying, guys, we're telling you to be peaceable neighbors, to work with people, to labor with your hands and feed with your hands and earn with your hands, and do not be a burden on others. Do not behave indecently. Do not behave deceitfully or wrong or evil to all those that are outside. Help any that are in need, and do not be the ones in need. 13. Now, brothers, we do not wish you to be ignorant. All right. We'll get into this next week because I know it's going to be 13. Now, brothers, we do not wish you to be ignorant concerning those who have fallen asleep, dead, lest you be sad as others who have had no expectation. For if we believe that Yeshua died and rose again, so also Elohim will bring with him those who sleep in Yeshua. So if we believe that Yeshua died and rose again, the Father will bring with him those who sleep, those who die in Yeshua. So those who die in Yeshua, the Father will bring, right? He will allow these things to occur. The everlasting life to be handed to you. For this we say to you, 15, by the word of the Master, that we, the living, who are left over at the coming of the Master, will in no way go before those who are dead. Because the Master himself will come down from the heaven with a shout, with the voice of a chief messenger, and with the trumpet of Elohim. And the dead in Messiah will rise first. Then the living who are left over will be caught away together with them in the clouds to meet the Master in the air. And so we will always be with the Master. So then encourage one another with these words. Now we're going to pause there. We're going to get into basically 13 down next week, because this goes into a lot of end time stuff. And we're already 15 minutes past time. But I want you guys to go back and ask yourselves, right? Remember in the beginning, we talked about this. Talked about this many times. Is Paul preaching another gospel? He's lining up with exactly what Deuteronomy, Jeremiah, Psalms, Kings, Leviticus, Ezekiel, Isaiah. He's lining up with the prophets. He's lining up with John. He's lined up. We saw how much in Galatians. Look, go back to Galatians. Look how much we went to John to reference John to pair up with what Paul was saying. We are one. The Father's one. Yeshua's in us. We become one. He ain't preaching another gospel, I can tell you that. How much he's referencing the Old Testament, he ain't teaching about a different God. And with what we just read in this letter, he's definitely a pro obedience unto the Father and his word kind of guy. And I think now we can all say with confidence, because we've read it with our own eyes and we've heard it read into our own ears and we've read it with in our secret quiet place and we've studied it. Paul is an apostle. He is not a false teacher. There are people that go out there and they pick and choose and they can splice up the words of Paul and they can go, well, Paul's not a prophet. We should throw out the writings of Paul. And then all they're left with is the Gospels, Acts, Peter, James, John, and Hebrews. That's it. They throw away all these amazing letters with all this information. Paul is a man who did not live through Yeshua when he was in the physical, but he was touched by the Father, touched by the Son, blessed by the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, and from that moment forward, lived in the Spirit, lived by the Spirit, taught by the Spirit, understood by the Spirit, which is a great example for us today because that's how we are living. We don't see Yeshua in the flesh. And Yeshua said to them, to Timothy, or to Thomas, when Thomas is like, I will not believe this is the Master until I, put my hand in his side and I touch the holes in his hands. And when Yeshua finally goes there, he puts his hand out and says, here you go. Touch my hand, Thomas. Put your hand in my side. And he says, how great is your faith, but I'm standing right here. How great will the faith of those who never even see me be? Blessed are those, and how strong of faith those are who don't even see me, who will never see me. Well, maybe for a short glimpse, Paul did. maybe. But Paul's blinded. And then when we see Paul's dealing with Malik, he's dealing with messengers, right? The messengers pull him out of prison. The messengers come and speak unto Paul. The disciples come, or other apostles come and encourage him. That should be encouraging to us because Paul is led by the Spirit, predominantly led by the Spirit. And that's how we should look at each other and we should really ask ourselves, are we being led by the Spirit like Paul was being led by the Spirit? Is he teaching another good news or another gospel? Is he giving us another God to worship? Is he teaching us a different gospel? Or is Paul giving us a small taste of what the disciples gave, what Yeshua gave, what the prophets gave, right? And we just have to ask ourselves, right? What authority are we under? Who is the head of that authority? Is it the obedience to the Torah or is it the Messiah that saves us? Right? When I'm trying to understand the Torah, am I leaning on the understanding of men or am I going to lean on the understanding of the Spirit? Am I a child of the Most High or am I a child of men? Am I seeking the recognition of men or am I seeking the recognition and the approvement, right? The approval of the Father. Because if I'm seeking the approval of men, well, then I look like the heathen. I pray in the streets. Hey, hold on. Wait, hold on. There's a group of people coming. Hold on, homeless man. I'm not going to give this yet. Ah, they're diverted. All right, when those group of people come out of that store and they're real close and they can hear me, then I'm going to give you the food. And then the people walk up. Oh, here you go, bud. I've been looking for you all day. I made some sandwiches and I got a couple bucks and I hope you feel better. Here's a hydration drink. And the group of people look, oh, look at this holy, righteous man. He's doing God's work. Yeah. We don't want to be those people. We don't want to be those people. So, I don't know if there's any questions or comments. Sorry, I know that went kind of long, but no, next week we will finish up First Thessalonians. We'll go back through 4, the end of 4, and we'll go over 5. And then we'll jump into Second Thessalonians. Second Thessalonians is only 3 chapters, so there's a possibility that we might get through all of it. But real quick, you guys can. Actually, I guess I'll do the recording. I don't really care. So, if you look over here, right? Um, I have collected everything on my PowerPoint. So Galatians, there's 103 slides. First Thessalonians, there's 34. There's a few more. And Second Thessalonians, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm still working on all this. When we complete the letters of Paul, my goal is to collect all of these up, and I'm going to put them up on the website so you can go through all of these slides on the website. Obviously, this is being recorded and going up on YouTube, so however long it's up there for, I'm never going to pull them down, so they'll always be up there for reference. But also, they'll be on the website. And then I found a way to make a little download link. So I'm going to put these up there so you could just download the PDF slides. So I'm going to be testing it out with Galatians. I'm going to put it up on the website and I'm going to put up the download link. So if you wanted to, you should be able to go to the website, hit a link, and it should download all 103 slides in like a PDF. Just working on some extra stuff. And then if you guys could please just keep Yusuf in your prayers. still trying to make stuff like that work out. So if you guys don't mind just praying for him. And yeah, if that's it, that's all I have. There's of nothing left. That'll be it, guys. Shabbat shalom. Uh, hope you guys have a good rest of the Sabbath, and